All right, this scene of the book, it's in the chapter. It's called Rikers Islander. Uh, it says Wade walked toward the housing tank he was assigned towards with nothing but a sheetroll, his towel, and surprisingly the shoes he got locked up with, all white Air Force Ones. This was going to be a memory of a lifetime for Wade because out of all the jails he's been booked at, or ones he's seen on crime TV shows in those boring out-of-state hotels, never in his life would he have thought New York jail would be this lenient about dress code. All he can think in his mind was, quote, if they let me come in with these, imagine what the other sneakers these dudes got in jail. The thought of red bottoms, the new fast-style Balenciagas, and the Disney Gucci duck bowling shoes were popular at the time and caused a slight smirk on his face because Wade was on the hunt to have a sentimental moment with high fashion once more. Even if it was a 2-minute glimpse of someone walking by, he would feel joy
This call is being recorded.
because the tease of shopping at all the high-end designer stores in Vegas to Houston was not enough. The time that he was free to back looking at bars, handcuffs, and walls was almost a split second in his mind, so fashion was one of the thoughts that helped his depression. The gates opened. Brum, clash. The sound of this turned Wave's face into a sad puppy because that sound was way too familiar. Quote, come on, son, you just gonna stand there? Wave looked back after taking a few steps inside, and it just also tripped him out how the deputy was a black male with a beard that looked like James Harden. Really, all these deputies were black, and the difference in culture from west to east interested Wave, but at the same time reminded him that he was fucked up in life this time. Wave had to shake off all the pity party in his head and make this facility his new home. Just like the second day of prison in Vegas, he put his chin up and chest out, ready for any nigga to come his way. Adding a limp to his walk and fist balled up, he finds the metal table in the day room right in front of the TV. The remote sitting right there as well. Quote, yo, Dep, I mean CO. Wave yells but corrects his lingo. Look back at him with a chuckle and says, what is this, a fucking setup? The CO just folded his arms at the door and smiled. Wave noticed there was a BT on the television channels and all. This made him really feel like it was a setup or he was in some type of hospital tank for special people. Quote, ain't no way this whole jail got all these channels, and why is this TV hella inches? Wave talks out loud as he flips the channels. Boom, clash. The door finally slams behind him, and looking back while jumping, Wave notices the CO vanished. Now kicked in very late, but just in time. He was getting comfortable with $90 fresh ones on his feet. He stands up and leaves the sheetroll on the table so his hands is free and he can fight. Quote, wait a minute, cuz. He slips and talks like a Crip gangbanger trying to embody the persona of the last gangsters he was surrounded by his last bid. Step, step, slam. The sound of the heavy side of his shoes make noise as he walks around the ghost town. He notices a few of the cells you could see inside, and the ones upstairs had magazine clips covering it up or material to make a flap. Wave knew exactly what that meant, and it relieved him to know he is not the only inmate in this tank of 80 cells upstairs and downstairs. Quote, maybe they all on the yard, he told himself. Then he heard the keys behind him and noticed the cage and computer behind him the whole time belonged to a station for a different deputy. The day room was a little lower of a level, and blocking the view was a rail, so Wave could see if there was a male or female. Thoughts of the sexy CEO Thoughts of the sexy CEO with the BBL downstairs came to Wave's head, and he could not just ignore everything and flip the channels much longer. Flop, flop. The sound of his sneakers hit the ground from the table once more, and tiptoeing to see who it is, Wave said, quote, excuse me, interruption at him. At the same time, the voice said, are you a new body? And unfortunately, all of Wave's fantasies were shattered because it was a Spanish.
This call is being recorded.
And it cut off.
No, you say.
And unfortunately, all of Wave's fantasy was shattered because it was a Spanish dude that looked like a Yankee baseball player. Fuck it, I'm about to ask him what's up with this tank then. Wave got the courage to tell himself, and just when he was about to walk up, there he hears, quote, yo, CO, open cell 54. Wave looked up at the entrance to 54 and traced it with his eyes. Click, click. The cell opens, and it looks like a scene in the movie Friday. Smoke everywhere, clouding the whole entrance, and Wave looked back at the depth in the station to see if his eyes seen the same amount of smoke Wave saw. Quote, damn, these cops really don't give a fuck. Wave's jaw dropped damn near, and he said that in his head like a kid in awe on a classic movie. Snap. His neck jerks fast and back to the door to see what inmates was in this cell the whole time. All Wave needed was popcorn and a large drink to watch the show because finally the smoke came. Because following the smoke came a whole football team of niggas huddling down the flight of about 20 stairs, all about 200 pounds of muscle or more. Wade was about to get back to flopping his Air Force Ones on his feet and balling his fist, but these dudes were intimidating a little bit to him. He thought it would just be best to continue sitting on the table and try to ignore them, getting lost in that big ass TV screen. The song by A Boogie, "This Is What That Jungle Do," popped up in Wave's head, and he finally knew the meaning. Wave was planning the technique of playing possum in this jungle because, after all, it was jail, and every man here had to survive for himself. Quote, maybe they won't really bother me. He gulped his own spit as they got closer to the CO station. Wave could see with his peripheral that some of the dudes went downstairs but fell into other tanks with the windows covered. He could hear all the doors click at once, and cell 54 was not the only smoky cell, that's for damn sure. Quote, yo, my mans, what's up with my favorite CO Ramirez? Wade was down below of the rail, and he can hear the friendly interaction the first football player had with the CO. Not taking his eyes off the TV, Wave just listened and absorbed the energy. Quote, fuck Ramirez, son. He still never bought us no tobacco. A different voice followed. Wade was itching to see who the second dude was, but he didn't. Yeah, facts, Ramirez. You always come to the bubble with no bag. Wave assumed the word bubble was that button station he was in, and he took mental notes on all the interaction for the quote bag from the CO to inmate in his new home. Money clicked in his head in connection to the phones being available. Wide open, Wave was thinking of a master plan. Quote, bail is all he could think of while watching Drake and Bad Bunny all on the screen with those beautiful Latina women teasing him in the video. Quote, fuck all that. Y'all got some new fish down there. Check it out. Wave heard the CEO whisper, and he could see the shadow of his head nod as well. Wave unballed his fist and tried to look as innocent as possible. Really, he acted as if he was nodding off the drugs and not aware of his reality. Lucky for him, his hair was already matted and smoked out looking. Following Ramirez's statement, Wade hears, quote, oh, word? Quickly, he had to think of an identity not too innocent or far away, though, because in case this was a setup, the gangsters would at least think Wave had some ties to the streets if his shoes got robbed. Miami came to his head, but Cali was more his reality. Even though Vegas was the truth on the East, no one probably even knew how connected the Vegas and Cali culture is, so according to TV, Cali it is. The Drake video goes off, and here comes Nicki Minaj, quote, Anaconda video with ass and sex appeal everywhere. Just Wave's luck. He knew the 3 or 4 dudes was going to come down the rail as soon as they seen the Queen of New York's sexy ass on the screen. Soon as Wave thought it, here comes the manifestation. Quote, yo, fuck that nigga Ramirez. My wife is on TV. He skips his linebacker shoulders having ass down the slope and ignores Wave grabbing the remote, putting the TV on full blast. The song plays, telling me to chill. He loved my sex appeal. I ain't missing no meals. Wave and all these dudes were hypnotized by the Queen.
This call is being recorded.
Wave and all these dudes were hypnotized by the Queen. They were all singing the lyrics with her, agreeing to everything she was saying about herself. When her ass was way right, so did their heads. When she would roll her hips or display her body frame, everyone bit their lips. It really dawned on Wave more than ever that he went from having the biggest celebrity crush on Nicki Minaj from the West Coast to now he's actually in the Big Apple City himself, but in jail, New York, Rikers Island. The other cells come out with inmates, one by one, as Nicki controls the whole energy of the jail tank. Spanish dudes with ponytails and gold chains start popping up in the day room out of nowhere. Skinny little black New Yorkers with braids, like Old Dog in the movie, plaits, kept popping out looking high as fuck. Alright, that's just a little snippet of when Wave gets into the module at first. We're gonna go into a different scene right now. Alright, so save that one, gang.
You want me to end this one?